Hey everybody, welcome to Foul Play Presents. My name is John, and I'm here with my sister, who is an incredible music journalist, and we decided to talk about the soundtrack for a new upcoming game. Actually, it just came out today, called Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2. It's like an HD remix or re-release of an old game from our childhood, and uh, Megan, my sister, she was so excited about this game coming out that she really wanted it to come on the channel and talk about the soundtrack that basically like formed our childhood when we grew up. And so, without further ado, here's Megan.
Well, thank you for having me on the channel. I'm excited to be here. I'm a little nervous. I've never done an interview with you, so it's kind of weird being on the Well, it's not really an interview, but it's kind of weird being on this end of the mic for once.
Yeah, I mean, my sister has like a ton of experience interviewing people, but I'm sure she never has gone through this before with an interview and recorded it, set up and everything. But
it's rare when anybody wants to actually ask me the questions or ask me what I think. So I'm glad I'm here. Yeah. I'm excited.
So I guess maybe we should go in a little bit of your background, because why am I asking you these things? I know why, but maybe you want to talk about what you've done as a music journalist, why you want to talk about music so much, and
So backtrack. I was a very young child, and my mom, our mom actually, always played music in our house, whether it was the Everly Brothers or Prince or the Bee Gees or something crazy like that. Yeah. Not really crazy, but those kind of classics. I was always around them. I was very influenced by like pop music. I went through a boy band phase, and I still am in my boy band phase. I did have an emo phase, and I love My Chemical Romance. And then emo kind of led me into punk and to hip hop and other kinds of genres that I'm into now. Yeah. I always went to concerts. If you know me, I'm always at a show. I've met a lot of people at shows. I've met a lot of bands at shows that I've become friends with. And it's just something that I truly am passionate about. And it led me to pursue my writing in college. And I wrote for a DIY punk zine called Razor Cake. And I highly suggest you checking them out at razorcake.org and supporting them and checking them out, because you never know what you'll find there. And from there on, I've always had an interest in music, taking pictures of bands, meeting them, talking to them. A lot of my friends are in bands, and I support them too. So it's really ingrained in my whole being that music is something I'm very passionate about. And I like having conversations about it, just like anybody else who's nerdy about things, and I like meeting people who genuinely want to know what I think about things, and I want to know what they think about things. And so here we are, and
Yeah, I think that's a great way to introduce yourself. I mean, honestly, like it's music has been such an important factor in both of our lives. Like she said, we grew up with a mother who just instilled the love of music into us. And I mean, I can't say we're musically talented with instruments or anything, but the love of music is formed into us, is like going out there, like my sister does, is to concerts. And for me is like I love filmmaking and editing, and the music is ingrained in that. Like if there is a strong soundtrack or strong use of music in media or something I love, it attaches to me. Which, going to this game, the Tony Hawk Pro Skater, is one of the most influential soundtracks in all of video games. I mean, like this soundtrack, like it introduced ska music and pop punk music to a different and new audience, as well as skateboarding did.
I will jump in, John, and
Yeah.
say that I've been having a lot of conversations with my friends in the past couple of weeks about this soundtrack and how it has influenced so many people. And I'm just gonna keep saying that probably throughout the podcast. It really has influenced so many people, and it doesn't just cover punk music, it covers all kinds of genres.
Yeah.
Like metal, hip hop,
metal.
and other kind of alternative music that personally I probably would not even have discovered if it wasn't for the Tony Hawk Pro Skating games.
Yeah. I mean, like, even for myself, I was just like tying back to what like Tony Hawk meant to me the last couple of weeks in anticipation for this game. And I realized that my love of AC/DC came from Tony Hawk Pro Skater 4 when they used TNT as the intro music. And, you know, I love AC/DC. I was the guy who wore AC/DC Converse that had Angus Young on the shoes. So, like, I'm super into AC/DC. And, like, in that, you know, I even found that, like, my trace of, like, classic rock and, you know, I can say, like, you know, I've ventured into different genres, but when I was a kid growing up, that all came from was Tony Hawk, because even, you know, one of my favorite movies, Lords of Dogtown, skateboarding movie. Only reason why I watched it, Tony Hawk. You know, a big Tony Hawk fan, so I was like, oh, I'm gonna watch Lords of Dogtown. What do they have in that movie? Another good soundtrack with, you know, Iron Man and all that. So it just shows that where my journey goes from Tony Hawk, you know, and their soundtrack, showing me that it all roots from that.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Having the classic rock element too with that, it really does bring in that whole idea of expanding your musical viewpoints. And it's really great. I also believe that with Tony Hawk, it really encapsulated a lot of the kind of, as not aesthetics, but maybe the vibes of like SoCal culture in its own right. Like we had skateboarding, and Tony Hawk and Tony Alva and all those great skateboarders were very influential during the SoCal like whole explosion of skateboarding. As they explain in Tony Hawk's latest documentary on how this whole game came about. It's now on Amazon. It's called
Pretending I'm a Superman.
Pretending I'm a Superman, and we're probably going to talk about that title in a few minutes, but hold on to that. And they really do talk about how the culture around skateboarding kind of changed, kind of grew, kind of was this whole thing, and it kind of really did pinpoint SoCal culture. If you were in that skateboarding scene growing up, you recognize that that's what this whole collection of music and this whole kind of vibe represented. So if you are from Southern California, you know, it's the fucking vibe.
Yeah, and that's something I want to bring into, is that what I love about skateboarding, you know, even some of the punk genre of music, that it's inclusive, you know, and people think, oh, to be a skateboarder, you gotta be this tough punk guy or whatever, or like you gotta be kind of this anti-authority, rebellious thing. But if you see that skateboarding, it appeals to so many different people, and it's such an like inclusive group, because it's like it was like cultured or cultivated by misfits, you know, misfit people from their genre or whatever their culture or communities they were in. And you know, and that I think is reflective of the music they use. Like punk music, it like thrives on that inclusiveness. I think
most definitely, I agree with you. Especially like if we can say, oh, but you know, there's different genres on here. How are they the misfits? Mm-hmm. But if you think about AC/DC and Kiss, for example, that are featured on these soundtracks, you know, they always tell these stories in these interviews of how they really didn't fit in with anybody at school. They made bands, or that's how they escaped whatever kind of situation they were in. You know, if they ever felt alienated, they knew they had music to turn to. And I think that resonates a lot with everybody. And like you said, it really does create, like, it's really for those misfit kids at the end.
Yeah.
Like, at punk rock or, you know, hip hop, these all came from kids or people that didn't feel like they belonged anywhere. And same with skaters. They felt that they really, at one point, never really had, you know, their moment of being included. Yeah. So, I agree. I concur. I hope this comes out right.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about any certain exact songs that are your exact favorites from the games?
Well, where do I begin?
Yeah, exactly.
So I cheated and I made like kind of like a list on Excel, and of all the songs that have been featured on these games, but I think I'm missing a few. So there's just too many. There's too many games, but I picked out a couple. And I'm going to try to work on a playlist to link.
That would be nice.
On Spotify. It's not going to be long because I don't want to bore you. Yeah. So basically a few of my favorites, without a doubt, we've got Bad Religion straight off the bat. They've been on mostly every single game that Tony Hawk has put out. In the documentary that I mentioned before, Bad Religion is in it, and they explain how they supported the skating culture, and they would let them use their music pretty much without a doubt, without a hesitation, and that's pretty cool in my book. And Bad Religion has always been one of my favorite bands. They're so good live. They've held up for so long, and all around good guys. And after hearing their viewpoints on supporting skaters and that kind of scene, I thought, yeah, these guys are not the type that are in it for money or for glory. They're in it because they care about their community, or they care about supporting other people in their community. And that's huge with me. And I love when people show support for their DIY community or punk community or skater community. Yeah. So that really resonated with me. And I mean, I love listening to Bad Religion on the way home from my government job, you know, and just the lyrics are just so powerful. And so You is one of the top favorite songs on my charts. Yeah. And yeah, so shout out to Bad Religion. I hope I get to see them again live soon. They're one of my favorite bands. Oh, we got to see them together.
We did get to see them twice.
And
my first Warped tour.
Oh, yes, Warped tour.
And then we got to see them out in
Musing. When we saw Blink-182. Yep. And that was really fun because these guys are no joke. They play long sets, and the times that I have seen them, they're not like, you know, boring. They play really all the good songs that everybody wants to hear, but it's not like you get tired of listening to them either.
No, they put on such a great show. Everything is strong with them. And I'm not a guy who goes to concerts like you, so like whenever I get to go to shows, like to me it's always impactful because I've seen Bad Religion is like my most seen concert, and I enjoy the heck out of them every time.
Yeah, I think I've seen them 3 times so far, and I'm ready to see them 300 more times.
Seriously, they're so great.
And so moving forward from that, another great classic, Guerrilla Radio by Rage Against the Machine.
Yeah, Rage Against the Machine.
So, a little fun fact about me. How I got out of my boy band phase was one day I had some Christmas money, And without any hesitation, I just bought the Battle of Los Angeles record.
Oh man.
And I was like, oh my God, what am I doing after the fact that I bought it?
Yeah.
Then it grew on me. And I also at the time had two older stepbrothers, our stepbrothers from Argentina, who were very much into like alternative rock, and it was like Smashing Pumpkins, Rage Against the Machine, all kinds of stuff like that for that time frame. And that album is one of my favorite albums, and I'm always so grateful that I was able to just dive into it and be exposed to Rage Against the Machine, because that is another band that I probably could never get tired of listening to. They're also really powerful and political, and when going back to that Tony Hawk Pro Skating game, like when you're skating around to that song, it's like, it's like a really good vibe.
Yeah.
You know, and those songs by Rage Against the Machine still like linger in your head after you're done playing. Also, Tom Morello is probably one of my favorite guitarists of all time. I am always dumbfounded that he can play guitar the way he does. Like,
oh yeah, totally.
I don't know where it comes from.
Yeah.
So
Rage, like that's one of those bands that really like bridges different genres, right? Like they're like hip hop /
it's
like hard
it's like
metal,
a little
right?
mesh of goodness. I don't know how else to explain it, but I think that's one of the most legendary songs off of the Tony Hawk soundtrack. And it's something that like you hear that guitar just lingering still in your head moving forward with my Excel spreadsheet. It's just like there's a lot of diversity on this too. It's like you have NWA, for example.
Oh yeah.
Like, come on, express yourself. Public Enemy, come on.
Damn, yeah.
So, me going to private school, Catholic school, where else was I going to listen to Public Enemy and NWA or get exposed to that?
Yeah, exactly.
And those kind of bands or those kind of groups are really important to music culture in a sense. Like, these are very influential music acts, and they should be actually shared further, and you know, people should be exposed to that kind of music as well, especially for hip hop.
Like, man, I love NWA, but a lot of people would get results of the rap is crap type of thing, but it's like, actually, you know, maybe you need to sit down and listen to what NWA promotes or what talks about.
They're speaking a lot of what, you know, Rage Against the Machine could be talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
So, also like A Tribe Called Quest, they're one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Because they're just chill, so chill. Yeah, mentioning A Tribe Called Quest, we also have De La Soul on this soundtrack as well, and it's just like a lot of really good you know, hip hop, a really good punk, and really good variety of classic rock as well. Like, the list is really endless. Oh, and I just have so many favorites on here. Of course, there's gonna be, I mean, one of my first exposures to Alkaline Trio was on this record, or this soundtrack with Armageddon. That song is a hit. That's a bop. Also, they do a cover, of TSOL's Wash Away, and on the Tony Hawk Pro Skater Wasteland. Am I saying that right? American Wasteland.
Teenage
thing?
Wasteland's the
I don't know if that counts as what we're talking about, but I just think
well, I think what we're trying to talk about is the overall Tony Hawk franchise involving music as it grew, right? You know, of course, with in more based on the first two games, because this new release is only the first two games, but I think we're more talking about like the whole franchise as a whole. As far as we love them, I mean, there's so many games to it and with so much music, but you know, some of those games just had just great songs. I mean, even going back to it, like what is it? Tony Hawk Underground 2 had Johnny Cash on it. And
that's right.
And yeah, and that was kind of one of my first exposures. I mean, a little bit. I knew Johnny Cash, of course, through Mom, but it was kind of like rediscovering it a little bit through him, or through Tony Hawk Underground 2, because of their use of it. I don't know if you remember the scene they use it in the game, but it's a little evil. It's like you have to like do some sort of mission, and then you fall into some sort of like hell level, and there's like a big pentagram, and then they're singing the Ring of Fire, and you're grinding around
right.
it. Yeah, I was but I'm like, it's such a great way to like introduce a classic influential musician.
And one thing I want to also jump back onto about being exposed to bands and stuff. In the American Wasteland video game, mostly the soundtrack are cover songs by newer bands.
Yeah.
So a lot of these newer bands covered old punk songs, and some of them are like Institutionalized by Suicide Tendencies and covered by Census Fail. Okay.
Really?
And then there's also Suburban Home / I Like Food by Taking Back Sunday, but those are Descendant songs, and Descendants are a quintessential SoCal punk band that everyone loves, of course, which I love and want to see them again, hopefully soon. Yeah.
Getting excited about it.
And then it's like Sonic Reducer by the Dead Boys, covered by Saves the Day, one of my favorite emo bands. Like, and then of course they have My Chemical Romance covering Astro Zombies by the Misfits.
Wow.
So like a lot of these songs like are by like Gorilla Biscuits, Bad Brains, The Adolescents, Black Flag, for example.
Wow.
Buzzcocks. It's just like those tracks by those covers really helped me get into those bands and really helped me like check them out for myself and give my own opinion of what those bands meant to me. So obviously I really love all those bands, and especially there's a cover by Emmanuel. I'm not familiar, and they cover Search and Destroy by the Stooges.
Wow.
And the Stooges are one of the most classic, epic groups. I don't even have the words. Iggy Pop, the Stooges, everybody really loves them. Like, come on. Come on. It's essential. It's essential.
Yeah.
And if you don't know them, turn this podcast off and go do a Google, because it's one of the most influential, or one of the most essential in punk rock music.
Yeah. What I'm hoping, it's kind of what my goal is for this thing, is I hope people listen to my sister talk about these bands and get a little excited and go, hey, I want to look this up. I want to find out who these guys are. If they haven't had the opportunity like us to know about these bands. I mean, I can't even be honest and say I know all of these soundtracks, or I'm so familiar with every single band on here. But, the way that I hear my sister talking about the bands that she really likes here is what I hope people can come back and listen to this and go, hey, maybe this is a good music recommendation for myself. And find that thing that really drives you. And
that's another point I wanted to talk about, John. Like, some of these songs that are on these tracks, they're on these soundtracks, like, I never knew about these bands. Or, like, maybe I listened to them during when I played Tony Hawk, but now I listen to them all the time.
Yeah.
One example of that is Avail. You know, that band is really good. They have Simple Song on the soundtrack, and I was actually shocked you knew all the words to it when it came on the car the other day. And, they're one of my favorite bands. And also another really influential band that I actually had seen, when was it? A while ago, maybe last year, for the Ben is Dead magazine anniversary show. Wait, let me back that up. Another band that I had seen last year at the Ben is Dead zine anniversary show with Jawbreaker headlining was JFA. JFA is on this soundtrack as well,
Wow.
and they were pretty influential in Arizona and Southern California skate culture. And it's really cool to see how I can go back and be like, oh, I had no idea this band was here or on this soundtrack, and I listen to them all the time now. Another one is Lagwagon. May 16th is one of my favorite songs, and I never knew about Lagwagon during the time I was playing Tony Hawk for the first time. And I never gave it a second thought, but over time I got really into them, and I love a lot of their songs. So May 16 is one of my favorite songs, which is highlighted on my track list.
So what you're saying is the person who chose these songs on the soundtrack is legit. He or she is like the real deal who knows all these bands, because
I just think that they were very in touch with, like, either they're friends with all these people in one way or the other, or they're just really in tune to the community that skate culture thrived in, especially in Southern California.
Yeah.
Or they were in tune with maybe listening to what skaters really like to listen to, or what was being played while they were like, skating at certain events or certain areas.
You know, that kind of makes me bring up a point that it's kind of a little different from what we're talking about, but going back to Tony Hawk himself, he gets a kind of a bad rep sometimes that he is the McDonald's of skateboarding, or he is like the over-endorsed or over-commercialized thing of skateboarding, and he doesn't represent the real people of skateboarding, right? But he has his name included on these games that were influential and have these bands that, like you said, are authentic to what skaters in the punk movement and hip hop movement, like, they're authentic to what people are listening to here. And I mean, to me, that's has to mean something. He's putting his name on something that isn't just, he could have just taken the check and ran, right? But he's saying, no, we have to get the authentic flavor of skateboarding, the culture into this game. And I think that's just so important. Like, that's something that hearing you talk about the music here is something we have to bring up, is that, Tony Hawk knew what he was doing, I guess. He made a big commercial product of, I guess, actual culture, like he didn't, like, it's actually represented. It's not just going to the getting the Happy Meal version of it, and I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I really do agree, and I also agree that it's like he made a platform. He used his platform to showcase other people's talents, and you see that with kind of like the characters the actual people that are featured in the game. And then, like, with the characters that you can choose to play with. And then also, I feel like, especially with those bands that are maybe not as well known as, like, AC/DC.
Yeah.
But, like JFA, like, Hot Water Music, for example, is on here as well. Yeah. Shout out to Chuck Reagan.
The best. Oh, God, Chuck Reagan. If you guys haven't listened to Chuck Reagan, go to listen to Chuck Reagan. He's got one of the
that's
nicest...
That's for another podcast.
He's got one of the nicest voices, I just have to say.
But also, there's also a change with this new game. A lot of old tracks are going to stay the same, or, like, a lot of the tracks will stay the same.
Goldfinger's in there, don't worry.
Don't worry, we're getting there. So, but what I admire the most is that one of my favorite bands, Screaming Females, is coming in as a new track on the new game. And if you don't know the Screaming Females, go ahead and check them out as well, because they just are a force. Like, they are, I don't know how to explain it. They just tear it off, like tear the roof off of anything.
That sounds great.
They're raw, they have good energy, just powerful music. And they also do a cover of Shake It Off. No.
Shake It
that.
Off?
Scratch that.
The Taylor
They
Swift?
they do a cover of Shake It Off by Taylor Swift,
Really?
but they also do a cover of If It Makes You Happy by Sheryl Crow, and that's one of my favorite songs. And yeah, go check that out.
I need to check that out because that's interesting.
I can rant about all my favorite bands, but we're not going to do that today because nobody would actually want to listen to us.
It's kind of why we're here.
So, and another band that I got into not recently, but like in my older years, was Swinging Utters. They're a really great band, you know, and it's just like all these other bands that I see on my list that I barely got into in the last probably 5 or 6 years of my life, you know, but they've always been in my life with the Tony Hawk games. So it's always like, for me, this is always like a reoccurring coincidence.
Maybe it's more than a coincidence. I mean, like we're just saying, like whoever put these soundtracks together knew what they were doing. They're ingrained in the culture. I have to believe that. And as you more ingrain yourself into the culture of music, you're finding good music that has popped up earlier. You know, that's what I think. That's what I see it as. It's more than just a coincidence. It's just good SoCal music is good, right? And that's what we're talking about here with a lot of these bands.
We say SoCal, but some of these bands are obviously not from Southern California, so just ignore us. We know it sounds weird, you know.
Yeah,
but
well, I'm talking about certain local bands and what you're talking about. And
I just think a lot of these songs really do make up the game. They are the game, and for the most, I feel like they are the game.
They are the game. I mean, it's because like I think, you know, like, okay, going into the documentary that we watched in preparation for this, because it did just release recently, I think.
I think like a week ago,
like
maybe.
a week or two ago.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it's called Pretending I'm a Superman. And
let's go into that real quick. Or do you want to finish your thought?
Well, let me finish my thought.
Okay.
So, it's the music, I think, gave, like, okay, the music and the gameplay, of course, but gave sort of a how do you, God, now I'm losing my train of thought. Okay, so the documentary gets into how a lot of these skaters, these professional skaters, didn't really have kind of a fan base or a platform. They were just really great skaters in their small, you know, community. Now there wasn't really a fan base of skating. They were just skaters and people who knew what they did, like Rodney Mullen or Chad Muska, you know, Andrew Reynolds. When they talk about these people, or Bucky Lasik, these guys, like, they get into that game and now they explode. You know, they're putting their name next to Tony Hawk, who Tony Hawk was already huge, and then he actually plateaued in the documentary. They show that he wasn't doing well until the game started coming out, and I feel like the music there really shows, like, hey, this music's great. You know, this music's great. These skaters are great. These Tony Hawk's great. Like, it's showing, like, everything is kind of elevating one another with that, and that's what I was thinking that the documentary was talking about, is that once they started finding their fan base, is because of the great gameplay tied with the music, tied with these names and these skateboarders, you know, just getting their fan base, the music started getting their fan base as well. And I think that's just cool.
It all meshed together and created
a beautiful classic video game.
Yeah. Who else will talk about this, like, at length? Like,
Yeah.
What other game can you talk about at length like this? Well, maybe Zelda. That's for another day.
It is for another day. We could get into that next time. Well, okay, that wraps up what we're our discussion on the Tony Hawk Pro Skater soundtracks, the whole franchise as a whole, and our love of them growing up. And I hope that what we have talked about, the brands that we have discussed, you know, the influences that we have found within the games and within us, and hopefully with you guys. Maybe you find another band that you haven't listened to, and hope that, you know, I hope that you take this as kind of a little bit of a learning tool to finding a new band or group or culture that you're into, that you can follow into. Any closing thoughts, Megan?
I just want to say that, you know, music is really for everyone, and if this isn't something to, like, you know, say, oh, what I think is right, I'm challenging whoever listens to this to go ahead and find something that they enjoy through this soundtrack, and determine, or listen to some of the bands I mentioned and determine what they think about them. And if you do have any thoughts or insights, you can always leave a comment down below.
Dang, you're doing my job now.
I didn't know I was allowed. Yeah. You can leave a comment down below, and it would be great to engage in some dialogue about music, because I can't shut up about it. And if there's anything that I'm missing from talking in this podcast, go ahead and let me know. Like, shoot me your opinion or what you feel about it.
Yeah, maybe we'll have a follow-up. We don't know.
We don't know. And, you know, I just feel like music is really important, and it brings a lot of people together. And let's keep that kind of vibe going. And I'm challenging all of you to go ahead and dig for yourself and find something cool. I should have a Spotify playlist linked down below as well.
Yeah, I'll link that once you finish it.
And yeah, let us know what you think, what your favorite songs are.
Yeah, what maybe some of your favorite Tony Hawk memories growing up. Maybe just not even just from the game, just anything about your favorite memories with involving this game. You know, maybe
has anybody actually met Tony Hawk? Is he even real?
Who knows?
All I know is
CGI.
From playing 5 seconds of the new game, I've decided Tony Hawk is my new dad.
Yeah. And that's another thing. So this is the end of our podcast for now. You know, to advertise, keep subscribed to this channel, because I'm going to get my sister to play the new game on the channel, and it's going to be up. She's not very much of a quote-unquote gamer, so it will be interesting to see her learn a new game that she's been excited about, you know, and she is loved from 20-some years ago. So it's going to be exciting to see her get back at it. And we'll see how that adventure goes.
I'm excited, but please be kind.
Oh, yes. I demand kindness. All right. So, goodbye.
Thanks for having me. Tweet.